Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager, and this is episode number 9. Our underfloor is ready. Huge upgrade. Let's see how much of a difference it's going to make with this car. As much as I would love to rush the manufacturing of the new underfloor, we've got to get it done properly. Budget right there, right now, this year, the finances. All right, it's all about building for the future, for the longevity. So we are going to suffer through this year, and it does mean waiting just a little bit. We have our next race weekend starting in 5 days, and the first one's going to be ready in 5 days. So do we risk it? Do we put it on the car? Do we get it out there? Or do we wait till a future race week? We might get it out there. We'll see. Scouting 6 drivers is not much, and getting rid of Latifi and signing somebody on a contract right now still feels risky. But here's where we're at with that process. One, I've already seen it within the mechanics of the game. The younger they are, the more they're going to develop. As they get older, the game very much breaks down their ability to get better. So having a pair of drivers that are in their mid-20s already, that progression's already slowed. Their progression from here is not great. Now they're still progressing, and that is the thing, but getting a young driver and getting them in the race seat immediately is going to drastically lead to rapid improvement because of the XP that they're going to gain, plus being young. And as long as we can build up those facilities relatively quick, they're going to take off. That's the goal. That's the objective. So what I've essentially done is I've looked at the youngest drivers in the driver pool and see, well, Enzo Trulli is only a 35 overall. O'Sullivan's only a 47 overall. So the youth doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best candidate. They've also got to already be fairly well along the way. They've already got to be decent drivers, decent enough to get into the seat. So the 6 that I've scouted, Veerman's the only teenager, the only under 18 that's made the list. Why? Because he's the highest rated out of all of them, at a 66. At 66, well, that's not that far off from what we have with Latifi. Yes, Albon is obviously a better driver with an 80 rating versus a 73. But there's one really key detail in that. Pace, right? Pace is based on 3 categories: your braking, your cornering, and your reactions. You can see reaction time, Latifi and Albon are neck and neck, 1 point separating them. But braking and cornering, there is a massive gap, massive gulf between Latifi and Albon. And really, Albon doesn't necessarily excel on pace. He excels in some other areas. He's really smooth. He's got good control. The adaptability, the overtaking are all fairly high. And he's not terrible at anything. His defending is his worst attribute at a 70. And that actually makes a lot of sense on Albon's ratings. I think they are very accurate to what I've seen from that driver in real life, from his time in AlphaTauri, whatever it was called at the time, and Red Bull, plus in the Williams this year. You throw that together, and that makes a lot of sense. He's got good lap time, but not the greatest. And he's good at overtaking, but he's not very good at defending. He doesn't hold positions. He's beaten relatively well, easily, but, none of it's bad. But Latifi, his worst attribute is braking. His second worst, in a tie, is cornering. So his general pace is off. Is he okay on tires? Sure. When given an opportunity, can he overtake? Sure. But overall, he is just slow. So even though he is a 73, and drivers we're looking at are going to be similar. He just has bad pace, and you're going to see how bad that compares here in a little bit. But going back into the age and quality combination, Maloney, the other young driver who kind of falls into the he's okay, but is quite young. But then we start to push into kind of another level, another tier of driver. They're starting to get a little bit older, but they're still very young, still teenagers, 18, 19, but definitely at the higher end of what F2 has to offer. Pourchaire, a 73 overall, which is identical to Latifi in overall rating, but just 18 years of age. He's 8 years the junior. Dewin, 19, 72 overall. Hauger, 19, 70 overall. And finally, Logan Sargent, one of the better F2 drivers, a 71 overall and 21 years of age. Now, we are obviously continuing to scout others, but making the decision where to go from here, well, the only honest scouting we have is those 6 detailed scouts throughout. So how do those 6 compare to one another, and how do they compare to Latifi is where we're going to have to make a decision from here. Well, let's start with the baseline, and that is Latifi. And the 3 pace attributes all together for Latifi is a 209. So anybody below, especially below 200, they're automatically out, meaning their pace is going to be worse than Latifi's pace. So what's the point? We want to improve pace and get somebody young who's going to progress rapidly. So eliminating anybody below Latifi in terms of pace, that rules out Hauger, Maloney, and Behrman. So those 3 are already eliminated. They're actually slower than even Latifi. Now, to an extent, that does make sense. They have the 3 lowest ratings. That puts us into the guys that are either a 71, 72, or 73. All 3 have high potential. Now, how that breaks down exactly what that potential is, we wouldn't know until we sign them, and that's tricky. That's tricky in that comparison of just how good are they. In terms of age, Pourchaire has the advantage. Sargent at the disadvantage, a couple of years older than the other 2. Terms of roundabout overall, Pourchaire, slight advantage. So he's the best and youngest in the overall. So that's kind of a +2 for Pourchaire. But in terms of pure pace, Pourchaire is the slowest of the 3, unfortunately. And it's not much of a gap between them, though. That also doesn't necessarily mean that Pourchaire is the slowest, even though his combined attribute rating of the 3 is lower than the other 2. What's the value? What's the weight of each of those things? How much time is going to be gained or lost in each area? Outbraking oneself, your actual cornering, and then how quickly you're able to get on the gas coming out of a turn. Well, comparing those 3 things, I would think cornering might be a little more important. I would think braking might be the second most important. I would think how quickly you can get on the gas is going to make the fraction of a second difference. But overall, I think general cornering seems to be the most important, right? Braking and accelerating in and out of the turns, it's going to be a little more marginal. So where are we at with cornering? Dewin had a slight advantage on Sargent for the combination of the 3, with Pourchaire third. So again, that's kind of the first time he had missed out. But when it comes to cornering, Pourchaire is the clear leader, with Doohan not too far behind in second, and Sargent well off when it comes to cornering. So you would think Sargent probably the weakest of the candidates at this point, as he hasn't been on top of any of those marks, and he's the oldest, and that overall combination is a little bit less. How far are you starting? So I think realistically we're looking between Pourchaire and Doohan as our top two guys. Let's compare them head to head. So with a significant bonus to accuracy and reactions, Doohan's going to stay out of trouble a lot more often than Pourchaire would early on. But where's our car at right now? It's at the back of the grid, not scoring points. Now, we don't want to crash and spend money repairing the car. However, we're at the back, not scoring points. What we need to do is we need to get to the front. So I'm a little less worried about accuracy and reactions right now. If a driver is developing quickly, we can really make some things happen and get in the right place in terms of having a lot of pace, in terms of getting the car competitive, and then we can start worrying about something like accuracy and reactions. If they're young and develop quickly, you can overcome that. But right now, obviously, Doohan has an advantage there. Defending, similar, but Pourchaire slight advantage. Overtaking, similar, flip the other way. So, defending and overtaking, those two kind of right on top of each other. Neither one having an advantage over the other. Adaptability, wet weather, almost identical. Smoothness, massive. 2-to-1 advantage, doubling Pourchaire, doubling what Doohan does when it comes to tire wear. That, tactically, is definitely a thing. We've seen both Albon and Latifi do well with tire wear, and that has really helped them in a couple of races so far, put them in a position where you could get something out of it. What about the last three? Control, pretty much identical, but here's where that advantage now goes to Pourchaire. The braking and the cornering, both advantage to Pourchaire. The one downside is that reactions, right? The reactions is two things. It's both reacting and avoiding contact, but it's also that how quickly do you react coming off the corner. That is where Pourchaire was weak. That's where Doohan has the advantage, and that's where the combination of his reactions, braking and cornering, means he puts together a better pace to an extent. So if we were to sign Pourchaire, it's the reactions that we would need to work on immediately and bring that up, both to avoid mistakes, to avoid accidents, but also to improve that acceleration coming out of the turns. The braking and cornering is already at F1 level, and definitely much higher than Latifi, who is a 68-63 in those, though his reactions are 78. But you can see even Jack Doohan is better in all three of those categories. Okay, what about the last pieces? Growth potential, they're both high, and aggression, here's the opposite one. Doohan's aggressive, and he's got good accuracy and reactions, and okay overtaking. He's not going to succeed all the time, but he's not going to cause accidents while trying to make moves. Pourchaire has low aggression. Now, the good thing on the low aggression is the accuracy and reactions aren't quite there. So he's not going to cause accidents still. And he's going to have fairly good pace outside of the reactions. And then he's got advantages pretty much everywhere else. I don't want drivers that are overly aggressive. I don't want to Max Verstappen, who has incredible pace, but is going to wipe out every other car if they don't get out of his way. His aggression is steroids level high. Some people love him for it. I do not. I wish he was neutral. That, he would show some aggression. But I do think that Porsche offers just a little bit more. That you're younger. Overall rating is slightly higher. He's going to have mostly better pace, especially once we bring the reactions along. But I think for probably the first 20 points going into Porsche are going to go into reactions, bringing that from a 55 to a 75 before I even bother with anything else. One of the great things about signing somebody who is a young prospect is it looks like it, in terms of the negotiations, we might be in for very, very favorable negotiations, but we'll see if that's actually the case. Contract declined, but we're already off to a good start in this one. Is 3 out of 6 were favorable. We just need to work on the others. Second attempt. We've got him in car 1. 3-season deal. He's neutral on that one. The salary just bumped it up a little bit. Bonus threshold bumped it down from 1st to 5th. 4 positives, 1 negative, which is worse than what we offered Albin at the end last time in terms of where that was. But he has accepted. This is actually going to cost us less money, though it is going to cost us $600,000 immediately to make that happen. But I mean, come on, that is small potatoes considering what we put into the car. And we are now out from under Nicholas Latifi. Porsche should immediately be faster, but those reactions are definitely going to need some work. But that's the one weakness that Porsche needs to fix. And we will hopefully address that early. And let's see if he actually does, how much faster he levels up compared to Latifi. And there you go. We have a done deal. Porsche into Williams. Before hopping into the race weekend, the team hub has finished its level 3 upgrades. We're going to continue pushing that up to level 4 now. The monthly upkeep goes up by 100,000, but the weekly experience gain for the staff goes up by 20%. And it's what we're going to need to do to get this team along the way. However, the race simulator is something that I think I'd rather get done now, more importantly, than the team hub. Staff will come along, they'll make their impact, but we need these young drivers to gain experience quickly, especially now that we've already made the move. So we're going to do this one first, and later on we'll get back to the team hub. So that front wing upgrade we did earlier in the season honestly was really weak. It did not make much of a difference. However, the underfloor is looking like a massive, massive difference. We're looking at a top speed increase, cornering being improved. We're looking at top speed under DRS being improved. We're looking at our dirty air cornering at all stages being improved. Well improved. Not marginally, but well improved. The very first one just finished, though. It's the only one we have for now. We're going to put it on car number 2. And you know what? We're not going to put it on a car yet. And here's why. This is the very first race for our new man, and I don't want him to be on a B car. I don't want him to be on a car that is less than what Albin gets when they're going to be compared head-to-head. I want to see how he does in this first race while we work on manufacturing a couple parts. We're going to go one more race with the slower car, but in a week in Canada, I believe it will be, we will have a new underfloor for each driver.
Hello from Baku, where we're looking forward to a weekend of racing among the medieval and the modern, here at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Drivers will be battling it out on the streets of the Baku city circuit, a real contradiction of a track. From the long main straight, where the less drag the better, to the tight turns where downforce is a necessity. Teams are going to have to work hard to get that balance right. The season is about halfway through, and it makes me wonder what else is in store for the teams. Well, there's only one way to find out. The weekend begins here.
So as they're wrapping up their first time out, first off, the setup is all over the place. Not only are they both very, very different from what kind of range they're looking at, but neither one, we didn't find it with either one starting out. So we've got a long ways to go to get that. But one noticeable thing is they've gone back and forth on their times with each other. They are just over 1/10 of a second off from each other right now, instead of the 5 to 6/10 of a second separating them each and every lap, as we've so commonly seen with Albon, with Latifi. So Pourchaire is already on it. He is so much closer to having a similar lap time to Albon, and it will make a massive difference compared to what we had with Latifi, and we should start beating Stroll at least on a regular basis, and now can compete 1 and 2 with Vettel, I would think. So going through, I've discovered that your setup and how quickly you're gaining that feedback, some of it has to do with the driver, or so it seemed, but it looks like a lot more of it has to do with the crew chief and the relationship between crew chief and driver. Overall, the crew chief seems to dictate how quickly that's determined, but it's highlighted, it's reflected upon the relationship. If the relationship's not good, it does impact that and slow it down a bit. So it's like a negative on whatever their numbers are, their attributes. Getting late into the final practice session, and we're still only mid-80s, but I'm hoping the changes we're making right now are the ones that are going to put us 90 plus, hopefully 95 plus, but I doubt that we're going to get that close. We're in a good range though. We'll be okay. I just don't think we're going to get the max bonuses today. Also, track acclimatization, 80-85% for them. Also not looking like it's going to quite be enough. Confidence is great. It's not optimal though, but it's good. We'll go ahead and bring Pourchaire in. The big notable thing is that throughout this race weekend, they have been very similar on their times. Generally, Albon's been a little bit quicker most of the time, but only very marginal, and it is so nice to have two drivers, because actually one good thing that I've noticed is when you're battling back and forth, passing somebody and then they pass you and you pass somebody and they pass you and you pass somebody and they pass you, you're gaining XP as a driver, more XP as a driver when that happens. So it's not a bad thing if we actually end up swapping back and forth a lot in a race, especially if we're in no man's land. If we get well ahead of the Aston Martins but behind everybody else still, and those two just battle it out with each other, great for them to get better as drivers. Hopefully they don't crash into each other, right? We did get to 90%, still not quite there. The one area that was a problem has been fixed, but it looks like the other area, we only have 12 minutes left in the session, but it's quite clear that a little more front wing could make that difference to push it a little bit better, and we'll take that. Might impact qualifying, as we won't quite know about the session and what the performance bonus would be like. We're at 14 now. Gotta be kidding me. Albon.
Here's the replay. Now watch this.
Albon has crashed. Looks like heading into turn 1.
That crash is terrible news for the team.
Not good timing right at the end of the final practice session right before qualifying.
They'll be questioning just what happened out there.
Well, there's a first for us. Terminal chassis damage. Uh-oh. Not just a broken wing.
Yeah, P0. Copy.
12 minutes left in the first session. We have our first retirement of any session for our team since we started this series, which is, it's good that it's taken this long, but Albon maybe pushing a little too hard there. Well, we weren't pushing. just a mistake. Felt the pressure of the guy behind him, I guess. The other aspect of what just happened is we don't get the final feedback from Albin on that latest version of the car. So we're going to have to kind of roll with that one and hope that it was good. Hope that we were making the right changes and that it was putting us up over 90%. Either way, neither car is going to be in the best shape entering qualifying. On lap number 1, Sonoda was held up by Porsche and got a poor lap, and Albin was held up by traffic on their outlap. And that combination did not pan out terribly well for us, and we're going to get Albin heading out now as well. Vettel on the bubble right now, so we got to worry about that one. Guan Yu Zhou just behind him. You would hope he gets a good enough time to bump ahead, and then you would expect Sonoda to move up as well. We'll also expect that Albin could put in a better time, but right now, this track, this car, current setup, looks like we are a bit off pace. We could be at the back this time. We'll hope for a better race next time with the new underfloor as we get those ready to go for the first time out. But we do have Porsche has a Ferrari right behind him. That could be worrying as they start their lap. Porsche's lap could be messed up as soon as the Ferrari completes a pass and essentially screw up each other's lap. Albin, he's got a bit of clean air in front, not a lot, but he does have, it looks like an Alfa right behind him, Alfa Romeo, and if he can at least keep them behind and not have to block them off, it should be okay. But this is also what led to his crash as Albin gets his lap underway. Porsche already well into his, and he has been passed by the Ferrari, so he's probably already had that slowdown. He's yellow in sector 1. He's also got a Red Bull tucked in behind him, so both of these guys impacting his lap. I would suspect that Porsche is going to be quite slow as the Red Bull now looking to make a move. Albin, meanwhile, is in last place. Stroll's lap is done. Looks like he has not improved. Vettel's still out on track. Albin kept that clean air, so he's okay. He will get a little bit of a tow down the final turn, it looks like, as he has been much faster than the Alfa Romeo ahead of him, as he's in between the two Alphas. Let's see if he does get that tow and gets a good third sector. That's how it should work here. Anyway, to get that drag reduction, you get that tow down the straight. Porsche done and has not improved. So Porsche is going to start from last unless Albin moves ahead. And Albin has completed his lap, but has he improved his time? It's looking like no, he has not. No change. Wow, we're going to start 19th and 20th. By the way, Porsche, 94% on his setup. Albin, 95. Setup part worked out. Positionally, though, starting from the back row.
The time has come to fight it out. It's race day.
Williams had a good performance in qualifying. Now they'll be eager to demonstrate that they can have an even better race. Haas proved quite resourceful during qualifying. That puts them in a very good position to make the most of this race start. And the weather is sunny here today, apart from a few clouds. Let's hope they remain scattered on the horizon.
But for now, though, let's get ready for all the action of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I hope I'm not tempting fate here, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Looking at the Williams now. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. And then we've got Alex Albon. They'll be starting the race from the bottom half of the grid, so there's a fair bit of ground to make up. Will their hard work pay off today? This is what you've been waiting for. It's the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go!
And the race is underway here in Baku, and I'm going for a mixed strategy. I'm going to try to be a lot more aggressive with Porsche. Porsche on the medium to hard one stop And that's what a lot of the drivers are going to be doing. Albin, I have 3 different strategies ready. Ready, able, possible here for Albin. All starting with the hard compound. And either doing the one stop in reverse, trying to get some track position, or if tactically something comes up for us, we're going to look to try to make something happen with Albin through a more aggressive strategy of pitting early if there's something out there. So, Corsair, we want to push all the way through this first lap, as there is that possibility on the front stretch / back stretch. Right, the finish line is very much at the end of it, but the finishing stretch, long and straight. If you can get in close, you don't necessarily need DRS. However, that's when things really do start to open up for you, is once DRS is active. Corsair, though, struggling to keep up, apparently, with Vettel. It says he's 9/10, but he's a car length behind. Wouldn't agree that the intervals are what they are. I think Albin, meanwhile, is much further back. You can see now it's been adjusted. Leclerc was fastest in Q1 and Q2, but the fight for pole in Q3 went to Verstappen in the car that's been the quickest all season long. And we're having a look to the inside. Corsair is. This would be his first ever pass. He's got the Aston Martin to the inside here for turn 3. Can he hold him off, though, for the outside of turn 4 and then proceed on down this little bit of a straightaway? They're still side by side, and he eventually tucks in behind Stroll. That was Vettel we got around, so that is good. That is good.
And a new position just gained by
back
Williams.
off for now, though, and accept that we've made 1 position up so far, and let's try to wait for DRS to try to make the next move. Meanwhile, Albin's pace is just not there where it needs to be on this hard compound. He's not getting them up to temperature or not pushing hard enough. DRS phase of this race. Following turn 2 here, we should have DRS for the first time, but Stroll still in range of Ricciardo ahead of him, and Ricciardo actually the one who's a bit off the pace, and Stroll looking to make a move on the outside of Ricciardo. It's going to have those two battling side by side. Not great news for us that Ricciardo is so far off the pace at the moment, unless we can also get on by. What is going on with Ricciardo? He's on the medium. Stroll's on the soft. Okay, there's your explanation. Stroll on the soft compound. Virtual safety car is out. Somebody has spun. And it is Sainz going down the order very quickly here.
VSC.
Virtual safety car. It appears that although damaged, Sainz is continuing on. He's trying to get back to the pits. He might get his car repaired yet and still out. But he's already down to last place at the moment. You'd think we'd get started again right away. However, I would imagine that there is some sort of damage on the car. Does he have a front wing at all? He's still got a back wing. He's apparently got a front wing still. Part of it. Let's see, from that angle. No. Front wing is broken off. So Sainz into the pits. Replacing a front wing. So it would seem. That's going to certainly drop him back. That's going to affect his race. But eventually you figure in a Ferrari, Sainz is going to catch back up and move on past us at some stage here. Not sure what's going on. We're under virtual safety car. Lifting and coasting, conserving some energy should be a natural part of what you do during that stretch. And yet, we've seen our gap to Ricciardo open up by 3 seconds over 1 lap. So either Corsair could not handle the virtual safety car deltas, or by conserving fuel, lifting, coasting, etc., we have caused him and Vettel and then likewise Albin to fall back. Sainz 20 seconds behind, and Pourchaire overtaken by Vettel already,
Situation
coming
is
out of the
18.
virtual safety car,
18.
and does not seem to be really back up to speed terribly well at the moment. By the time DRS was enabled again following the safety car, or the virtual safety car, we were already out of range, both for Pourchaire and Albin not able to get in range against his teammate. So both of them struggling through at the moment a little bit, and now Sainz has caught Albin. Ultimately, Sainz is going to get on by, but what we can do is, if we do this carefully, Albin can follow Sainz for a while and use that DRS to hopefully catch up to Pourchaire, and then same sort of scenario. Our idea is to utilize Sainz to our benefit. We don't want to fight him, we just want to follow him. Sainz was just too quick for Albin, and he had him left in the dust within a lap. Now Pourchaire side by side with Sainz, and he's going to have to do his own push to stay with him. So we're going to deploy for a little bit. Pourchaire already on the edge of being a second down, more than a second. Did not last, did it? Yeah, too big of a pace differential between us, and off he goes. Leclerc has gotten around Verstappen to take the race lead, and also we are beginning to see the first round of pit stops. Ricciardo, even though he was not on the softs, has pit. So he pits very early in this one, and Mick Schumacher pit. He's already past Pourchaire. That's how slow we are today, as we're just not keeping up very well at all with the rest of the grid. I'll be excited when we get to our next race. Stroll pits. Stroll comes out just slightly behind Albin. That's not good. He had that much of an advantage over us. As we enter our pit window for Pourchaire, he'll be pitting fairly soon. Vettel into the pits. Pourchaire comes in. He's going to be coming in a lap later. Albin, of course, going the distance on this one. Albin's not that far behind, considering he's been on the hard compound. He was just overtaken by Ricciardo, who had just pit. But it just doesn't feel like the pace is quite there today. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with the new underfloor next race weekend, and see how much quicker we are, how much more competitive we are. By this stage of the season, guaranteed, the other teams have had upgrades, and we've had one, but it was so minor to what it actually did. This underfloor should be huge and should see us have a competitive gain. Pourchaire in 2.8 for the stop. Not great, but certainly not bad. It's within a tenth of a second of where we normally are, and I think that's going to be expected with Pourchaire for a little while, as the relationship between crew chief and Pourchaire is brand new. It's brand new. So I'm going to go ahead and go standard. Albin has overtaken Vettel. Vettel on the hards. Okay, that was coming out of pits. So Vettel, I was surprised by that one. Slow them up, mess up their race. When we get on the medium compound later, we are going to be faster than them. So if we can cost them a little bit of time while they're on fresh. Oh, big crash! Vettel has wiped out. Vettel has wiped out Albin.
See the Williams here.
Both into the runoff area. They will continue on. They will continue on. We need to pit.
Yeah, I'm fine.
We need to pit. We have a flat. Okay. Okay. Well, this changes a lot, doesn't it? We kind of anticipated and planned for this a little bit. This is now going to put the race between Pourchaire and Stroll on how we feature against them today. So what do we have? We have mediums to go to, I guess. I don't think it's going to get us to the end of the race. 27 laps remain. 27. Probably 26 once we get lapped. Mediums might just squeeze it out to the end of this race. Alright, so Vettel and Albin are slowly making their way around the track. You can see a lot of our rear wing is gone. Now, the reality of that specific rear wing situation is technically we should be faster, but I doubt that the game is actually going to make that happen. We have less track. Cornering is going to be a little bit harder, but we would have less drag. We would have DRS every lap. I just don't think that it's going to actually translate like that. Now, we're being forced to change the front wing because we got shoved into the wall. Vettel hit us from behind and then shoved us into the wall. So it broke our rear wing and our front wing. The front wing is a required change, and it was not giving me the option to further change the rear wing. So we're kind of stuck on that one. We may or may not have to stop a second time. And there you go. Change complete. We head back out. Where are we in relation to Vettel now? Both of their races ruined from Vettel's mistake, but where does that put us? It looks like there's a car just behind. It's a Red Bull, not an Aston Martin. But we have a car further back, so that means we are in front of Vettel. But we have minor suspension damage and rear wing damage. I think we might end up having to retire from this one. It's not looking good. We might want to retire the car and save the parts. Let's see what happens with Vettel, though. Does he catch up and pass us quickly and easily? If so, that might be the safer, better thing to do for the longevity of the other parts on the car. So that turns us into a race between Pourchaire and Stroll. Right now, Stroll has a 10-second advantage, and Pourchaire has already pit. Stroll has already pit as well, right? Pourchaire pit a bit later than Stroll did, so he's got fresher tires.
Looks
So
like
we're going to
Aston
definitely
Martin
need him.
have just gained a race
Vettel has
position.
overtaken Albon. Vettel has overtaken Albon. He is well off the pace.
Yeah, P0, P0. Okay.
Day done for Albon. There's just too much damage. We were already at the back of the grid as it was, but that made our situation a whole lot worse. Now, all we can hope for is that Vettel is at least out of contention as well, though he will finish P19 in this one. That's Sainz, who's been making his way back through the field. Remember, he had that early virtual safety car after he lost a front wing, but he's all the way back up to 5th place now. Safety car comes out
Safety car.
just in time. Just in time.
Positive.
I am not pitting right now, though, because just behind Pourchaire, the lead car of Leclerc. We are going to bunch up the field, see where we're at, and think about a pit stop then. But right now, after what happened in our last race, there is absolutely no way that I am going to pit right now. So we're going to ignore.
Okay, there's a big crash.
Looks like Guan Yu Zhou has crashed on this one.
We've just
Gonna
had a
move us up
crash
the
on the
order.
track.
Yes, he has crashed
Let's
on
take a
turn
closer
1.
look. Let's take another look. There we have Joe. There's the crash.
Same thing that happened to Albon in the final practice session. Okay, safety car has picked up the leaders, and we are now in the process of opening that gap behind us. So we've escaped trouble. Not pitting was the right thing on that occasion, for sure. But when and where could we pit? Is that an option for us, as we are on the hard compound, and I would love to switch to another compound to see out the rest of this race. But with this safety car, I don't think we have enough of a gap this lap, maybe next lap. And then will we get bunched back up? I doubt it. No notification that we're going to have safety car in this lap. I'm definitely thinking about trying to make a move here as we close up on the back of the field. Alright, throwing caution to the wind. We'll see if this pans out for us, but we are pitting for softs with 19 laps remaining, approaching 18 laps remaining. The softs should just make it to the end of the race with that kind, and then hopefully give us some pretty good pace. Make us faster than Stroll. But do we get close enough? Are we able to bunch up still as we lose 12 seconds making that pit stop? Oh, safety car in this lap. It hadn't been announced that it was coming in this lap. I was hoping we would bunch up, but now that is clearly not the case. So we lose 12 seconds. How much faster will we be with the softs as we are 40 seconds behind Stroll right now? 40 seconds is a lot to make up. But we're going to be in clean.
Let's have a look. Now we see the Williams here.
Porsche just crashed. Porsche just crashed. He just drove straight into the wall.
Something went very, very wrong there.
Okay, the rookie just made a rookie mistake.
With that.
Wow.
Let's hope it doesn't set.
Alright, so here is our race situation for Porsche. I don't think there's much hope of beating Stroll at this point, as our 40-second deficit just turned into Porsche making a rookie mistake and crashing under safety car conditions. Of course, he was being released, so he was definitely mostly up to speed. You're not able to go full speed, but the big mistake there. Now, Stroll never made it to the back end of the grid, so he's not going to get DRS. He's not going to get helped out. But in front of him is a lapped Sebastian Vettel. So by pitting now, putting on a new front wing, we're going to get in, we're going to get out. We're still going to be on the lead lap. No visualization of the wing change. It'd be nice if they're able to add that in eventually, but we are back out. Half a lap behind. Another safety car could bunch us up and get us back in this race. Meanwhile, as the race resumes, it is Leclerc ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Perez and Hamilton. We still have some other damage to the car, so we are not just suddenly in great shape, but it's only minor chassis damage. It shouldn't impact us much. You should be able to put in competitive lap times. Schumacher and Ricciardo have pit, but it's still not enough. Porsche is still too far behind. It puts them into that gap, but it also puts them behind Stroll. So, Stroll right now, all the way up in P14. Porsche 17th, though, I think still actually might be better or as good as anything Latifi did. Here comes those lead lap cars, though, so we are going to need to maybe push here in these final laps a little bit with Porsche to try to keep them at bay, even though it's going to drop them off in the final laps. We have a crash, another virtual safety car. Another virtual safety car here. It's Bottas. Bottas has crashed. Boy, a lot of DNFs today. Really, really impacting our day. But the downside on this one was it was a VSC, not a full safety car, stopping us from getting that opportunity to close up to the back and get away from these leaders. So these last few laps are just going to put us in a spot of bother, holding off us getting lapped a little bit longer, but not helping our position at all. Now entering the main straight. This is a great place for an overtake, and he's well poised to it in a much faster car on fresh tires. You would think he'll make this happen. Already having a look early in the lap, well before just now in front of the pit straight. Still hasn't passed him and has not activated his DRS. DRS is active. DRS is active for the last lap. They had not started that lap yet. He should have it right here, though. And he makes the move without DRS. Not sure what's going on there, but Ricardo is on by. He's ahead of Stroll. He is pulling away. Got a Mercedes or two coming at us. 4th and 5th place. Leclerc leading from Verstappen. Heading for the finish line. Looking like he will claim victory today. And that is Leclerc for the win. Verstappen 2nd place. Here is Perez. He will cross the line in 3rd. Hamilton has caught us.
That's Leclerc.
And are we going to pull aside before the finish line? No. Pourchaire crosses the line just ahead of Hamilton, ahead of Russell. Alonso adrift in 6th place. Pourchaire, not a great first performance from him. Big mistake there when we were competitively trying to set something up to potentially compete with Stroll, and blue flag once those kicked in. There, nothing we can do about Stroll at that point. But we do have Ricardo looking to hold off Stroll one last time. He's 1.5 seconds behind. He will not catch him. So at least there's that. At least Stroll only got P6. Alright folks, that's going to do it for Pourchaire's first race. And that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe. Underfloor coming. I'm excited for the next one. Be sure to hit that like button. Bye for now.